Gosh. Okay, Zoom, you make a show too. May the sacred presence of the one who said he would abide in his teaching be our guide. May we follow his glorious example and tread with unfaltering step this noble path until we too shall attain enlightenment. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, maha prajna paramita. So once again, good evening. Get myself set up here. So let's talk about Zazen. That's the topic for this evening. And it's just to pause for a moment and just say how nice it is to see you filling up my computer screen and all these lovely bodhisattvas coming together to think about Zazen. And as this pandemic continues, I am sorely missing in-person Sangha, and I'm very grateful for the connections that we can maintain through technology. So we're going to keep hanging in there, but it's really nice to see some of you that I have not seen in a while, even this way. So about Zazen. Our meditation practice, I think everyone here is pretty seasoned practitioners. And so this is just a check-in on this primary practice. In Zen, we talk about having, our two main practices are Zazen, meditation, and precepts, our ethical practices, engaging ethical practices. It's amazing how little we actually talk about Zazen. We talk about lots of the teachings. We don't seem to talk directly about Zazen as much, strangely enough, or at least that's my perception. So a couple kind of inspirations for talking about this evening. There's the hint of the weather's been gorgeous here, but there's the hint of fall in the air, and it's a natural time that we begin to turn inward, and it always feels like back to school time for new pencils and a new notebook or something. So it feels like back to basic times. And in the liturgical calendar for Dharma Reign and for many temples, fall is a traditional time where we talk about foundational teachings, get back to basics, hit the reset. It's almost sort of a New Year type time. So there's sort of this natural rhythm, kind of naturally comes up. And the other inspiration for the topic this evening is really the times that we're in. So here we are facing so many challenges. We have this pandemic that seems to be going on and waves and challenges with that. Got the very real and visible effects of climate change, continued political divide, addressing racism. So we take all those things that we're facing together, and then anything that you might personally have going on that is a challenge at the moment. And what is it that we turn to with all these challenges? And one of those places of refuge, and a place where we really turn towards our ability to listen and access our own internal wisdom, is meditation. It's just like resting in presence, resting in what is, and turning towards being with ourselves as completely as possible. So Zazen, our primary practice, so many challenges, so many things going on, and just remembering this fundamental practice is so key. going to pause for 1 minute. I have a fan going here and I'm going to just turn that off. No. My air filter. So Zazen. So my plan for this evening is to offer some kind of miscellaneous thoughts about Shikantaza and what Zazen is in our lineage tradition. Some things that I've been jotting down that I've kind of been wanting to mention or that come up. So it's going to be some sort of miscellaneous bullet points about Shikantaza. Really my hope, and then we're going to have a short time for, I always like to give people a notice about this. So a little bit of time for a small group discussion. So you're going to be zipped away to breakout rooms for a short period of time, and we'll come back. But my hope is that this topic, this talk, is an opportunity for you to check in on your own practice, offer you all and offer each other encouragement for being steadfast on the path. Sometimes it's easier than others to engage, to sit. Encouragement and an opportunity to reflect on, why do you do Zazen? And what supports you in continuing on with this? So again, I recognize like everybody here is familiar with Zazen. So I don't think everyone's familiar with the basic practice. Just want to offer some thoughts about this and some points of reflection. Hopefully that's useful. So one thing to know, so here's miscellaneous thoughts about Shikantaza. So Shikantaza, we often talk about, we kind of use three words pretty interchangeably in our tradition. So we talk about meditation, we talk about Zazen, we talk about Shikantaza. So one thing to know is that we oftentimes use the word meditation and Zazen pretty interchangeably. You all know this, but it's just a good reminder in case it's ever not clear that meditation covers this like a broad range of practices, guided meditation and progressive relaxation and mantra practice and engaging with koans. All of those are wonderful practices, have their place. And our lineage tradition really focuses on Shikantaza, which means just sitting. Themeless meditation, objectless meditation. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. So I just want to share a couple of passages about Shikantaza that help to just illustrate some points about it. One of the books that I really love that I wanted to share is this book, Just Sitting by Dido Laurie. That is a compilation of traditional teachings and some essays by contemporary teachers as well on the practice of Zazen, of Shikantaza. So it's really, really lovely. So I want to read a passage from the introduction to that book written by Dido Laurie. And he describes Shikantaza this way. He says, Shikantaza, or just sitting, is meditation without a goal. It is boundless, a process that is continually unfolding. If you've ever wondered what kind of practice old Zen masters are doing, sitting so long serenely year after year, the answer is they're just sitting. The spiritual maturation resulting from this kind of practice is as subtle as it is profound. It shapes our spiritual character the way a river shapes the rock it encounters on its journey to the sea. I just love that. They're just sitting. This reminds me of a phrase that we often use in our intro workshops, that describes the practice, which is nothing happens, but something changes. So this mysterious transformation, often really imperceptible, bit by bit by bit. That is shikantaza. It is kind of amazing that it actually works. I think there's a lot of mystery in it. The other thing I wanted to share from that same book is there's an introduction from Tegan Layton, and he describes shikantaza this way. He said, "This just sitting is not a meditation technique or practice or anything at all. Just sitting is a verb rather than a noun. The dynamic activity of being fully present." So here we have this description of Zazen as simply being present to ourselves, being with ourselves, whatever arises, no particular goal, letting go of striving, resting in pure awareness. So to know ourself completely and to know this place where the I drops away, the one who sits drops away, just resting in awareness. Simple to describe, not so easy, right? So that's the emphasis in our tradition of shikantaza, simply sitting to sit, just to sit. And there's a certain element of faith in that, but everybody here has been sitting for a while, and we find for ourselves the fruits of that effort. So we can see it for ourselves, what happens over time. So I wanted to bring up this other thing that is just so interesting now is that, so our instruction with shikantaza is to sit with no gaining idea, sit just to be present with ourselves. But nowadays, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of evidence, there's a lot of science that talks about meditation itself and all the myriad benefits of meditation. Not specifically shikantaza, but meditation and mindfulness are very much in the popular culture. So it's really interesting to find ourselves holding both of these things, like, because I think it's okay to enjoy the health benefits of meditation for sure. I mean, I even pulled up, like, there's a lot of stuff. When I first started sitting, this wasn't so much talked about, all these health benefits. But it's recommended for lowering blood pressure and helping to self-regulate, working with anxiety, depression, improves your sleep. So there's all these health benefits of meditation. I think many people find themselves coming to a Zen center or a meditation workshop looking for some of those health benefits. So it's like holding both of those things. But our primary practice in our tradition is to be able to rest with ourselves, be with ourselves, relax into awareness, and notice what hinders that effort and allow that to inform us. Notice when it's difficult to do that and sitting with that, being with that. So going down my list of miscellaneous bullet points, those were a couple of things that I've been wanting to just kind of mention because it kind of comes up, and I hear that in intro workshops all the time, like, here's the reason that you should meditate. And yet the instruction is sweep away all ideas, sit with no expectations, just sit. So it's kind of hard to hold both. And it's okay. And we work with that paradox for sure. So I want to pause here for a moment and shift gears slightly into, I'm not going to ask you to share this, or we're not doing any breakout thing with this, but think about, why is it that you sit? You could either think of it, what first brought you to practice, or why do you keep doing it? We all came here tonight and sat together. Why is it that we do that? So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to grab the book that I'm about to read from. Let's just spend a moment just just reflecting. Maybe if you have a pen, just jotting down something, just reflecting on that. Part of why I wanted to pause there is to invite you to notice what arises and allow it to be a little messy. Allow it to, maybe there are some things that we're hoping to gain from meditation, and maybe the ultimate goal is to have it all just be completely okay as it is. But yet that's a goal too, right? So it's it can tie you up in knots, and just allowing for that to be as it is. So I wanted to share a passage from Kyogen's book, Zen and the American Grain. He wrote an essay called Why Zazen? So I wanted to share his response, or a portion of his description about meditation. Just one paragraph here. It says, meditation is a discipline because you cannot depend upon quiet mountainsides or a trip to the seashore for your peace of mind. Besides, you quickly find out that when you are really distracted, even that doesn't work. Meditation is the practice of finding the still point of balance within your own being in the midst of all kinds of conditions. That still point of balance within your own being in the midst of all kinds of conditions. Its purpose is not to escape, not to duck responsibility or involvement in daily life, but to know with certainty exactly where the center of your own being is. When we remember who we are in silence, we bring tremendous strength and insight to daily life. So I love that simple, clear orientation back to what this is. When we remember who we are. So the other point I wanted to bring forward before I send you off to with the question is something from Dogen. So Dogen describes Zazen as being this perfect manifestation of our Buddha nature. So this reflection of our innate nature, of the enlightenment that we are part of and arise and fall from. So this is from, I always mispronounce this, Bendawa or Bendawa, a fascicle from Dogen. That title is in, one translation of that title is On the Endeavor of the Way. So this passage, the Zazen of even one person at one moment imperceptibly accords with all beings and fully resonates through all time. Thus, in the past, future, and present of the limitless universe, this Zazen carries on the Buddha's teaching endlessly. Each moment of Zazen is equally wholeness of practice, equally wholeness of realization. What this points me to is that we can't really know the impact of our meditation practice. We can't really know. And also that when we're, this is sometimes how I'm sitting with it when I'm feeling particularly low, is like, well, when I'm sitting on the cushion, I'm not breaking any precepts and it's all okay, just right for right now. And that's good enough. It's just good enough. Oh, I forgot. There is one last point I wanted to make. I feel like I'm one of those people. And one more thing before the discussion. The last point I wanted to make is that um, there also is a time when Zazen, when meditation is not the right medicine, is not the right thing to do. And I know there's definitely been times in my life where it has been very important for me to step back from Zazen. And one of the tricky parts is that there's so, all the things I just shared, all the things we talk about Zazen being a primary practice. But we know a lot more than we used to about trauma and being triggered, and how sometimes sitting in meditation can exacerbate some of these distressing mental states. I know for myself, many of you know my stories. Like, I come from a really long history of depression, and that is part of what brought me to practice. And it was really challenging to work with. When is it useful? When is it okay for me to sit? And when is it actually sending me further into a spiral of rumination and healthy thinking? So I just want to put that out there because we do know a lot more, and it is really okay to engage in other practices when we can tell that that is just not the right thing. Oftentimes walking meditation, movement, yoga, time in nature, mindful activity are also really, really wonderful and good medicine. So I just want to put that out there because it can be kind of held up like, oh, my practice isn't as good. I mean, I know that I say this from my own self-talk of feeling like, oh, it's not quite as good if I'm not actually sitting, and to be wise, to be really wise with ourselves. One really great book on this is Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness, which offers a lot of great practices and suggestions about how to approach practice, and to be really wise and kind with ourselves and know what's going on there. All right, so now for some tricky technology business, because I haven't done breakout rooms in a while, but what I would love to do, I would be curious for you all to talk about what has been helpful for you. So if someone was saying, I'm thinking about starting a regular Zazen practice, what are some of the things that you would suggest to someone else that was helpful for you? And actually, I have a hidden agenda here because we're kind of revamping how we do some of our intro to people that join us for the first time. And so I would really be curious to know what has been helpful. What would you suggest? So that is, that's the suggestion for the topic. Of course, I recognize I'm always off topic when I go into breakout rooms, true confession. So I'd be happy if you just talked about Zazen in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to send you, how many are we? We are 14. Don't count me. Oh, I don't think I'm a co-host. I'm looking, who is our Zen host? Zoom host.
I just made you a co-host.
Oh, can I do the breakout rooms? Let's see. I apologize for the technology stuff. I don't see it. Do you mind putting people in like just 4 groups? Thank you so much, Cameo. Sorry to just put you in a different space for a second. And we'll come back at like 8:06. So thank you for doing that. That always throws me. So I would love to hear what came out of your discussions. I'm going to kind of type them in the chat so I can save them for later. Some of the ideas that you might have, things that you would share. If anybody would like to share what came up in your groups.
After about 20 minutes of sitting, my mind sometimes clears up and becomes less active. And I
So
think this may help me in personal situations to be less reactive and ornery.
So Shokai, is it like you'd say something about that 20-minute mark that is helpful to know about? Is that what you're that first?
Well, just because I set my timer for 25 minutes, and when I know it's over with, I'd better do something. Nothing.
And
But
you said you've become less reactive.
yeah, I'm this is only occasional. This is not the main reason, but I think I'm easier to live with. I'm less likely to do harmful things to myself or others.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else? Anything else that came out of your discussions?
I would say not to have, to newcomers, not to have expectations or judge yourself, but just let it be. And then one of the first things Joe Bennett ever told me that you said again tonight, Shintai, it's so true. It's like nothing happens, but something changes, and it's true. And not even, I mean, some things I just notice are different in me. And I don't know why, but it's just, happens. And then the third thing, I guess, for me, I'm not very good about it, and I need to do more just Zazen. But when I do, I feel more peaceful.
When you do, isn't it interesting how I don't know, for me, I feel like I do know that it makes me feel more peaceful and calm and clearer. And yet I go through phases where I kind of resist it for whatever reason, even though I know it's even after all these years, can be these times where I'm feeling fairly resistant. So I think I'm with you there. I'm kind of just scribbling in the chat here. So I kind of remember the flow of the conversation. Anything else that came up for people?
We talked about if like in the beginning, and even now for myself, I was telling everybody, having the shorter time period to meditate at the beginning was super helpful for me, and other people that I know too, because sometimes a longer meditation period when you're just starting can be kind of intimidating. It kind of seems like a long time, and it can be a long time, if you're not used to it. And even now, I mean, my back has been bothering me lately, and sitting for long periods actually is pretty painful. So just giving myself permission to sit for 10 minutes and not, half an hour, I think is really helpful. And we also talked about structure too, and how and routine, and how that can be important. And I was telling my group that, and the importance of doing it every day, just figuring out a way to meditate every day, just make it a regular thing. And for me, the way that I did that is I have to take a medication first thing in the morning, and I can't like drink coffee for an hour after I take it. And so I'm like, well, I might as well meditate, because I can't drink coffee, then what, what's the point of doing anything? So that's literally like the thing that kind of gets me to the cushion in the morning. And I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I don't know. It's kind of like my routine. So, but it's just, I think having something is like a routine is important.
I see smiles and laughs, so I think everybody's got their own kind of thing that they do. Like for me, I've never been much of a morning sitter, usually in the evening, but in the morning when my oatmeal is cooking, I'll do my Zazen while my oatmeal is going to be ready. So I totally get that. Anything else?
So we didn't talk about this in our group, but I think I encourage a new sitter, meditator to sit, as Monty said, for short periods at first, but sit every day for short periods, but then talk to a teacher. And I don't know why that's not emphasized more. I feel like that's so important, because there's going to be questions, and you're going to think you're the only one that has these questions, and you're going to think you might, so I would encourage new meditators to sit for, a few weeks and then talk to a teacher, even if everything is going fine.
Thanks for bringing that forward. I think I could have saved myself a lot of self-doubt and a lot of I just would have cut through a lot of stuff if I would have just checked in with the teacher earlier on. So I think that's good advice. And just nice to check in with either a teacher or Sangha member about how it's going. For sure, that's great. Anything else people thought of? Well, this is great. I have my own little list, and I think everything that was on my list is on. I'm looking at my list is something that someone brought forward. Oh, I think I added rotate your meditation posture to save your back and or your knees. So to shift and just be nice to yourself in all of this. We have maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. If there's any other thoughts or anything else anybody would like to bring forward before we close.
I was going to echo the points about starting out easy, because I started out with about 5 minutes and added one minute per week, not even per day. And then after about 6 weeks, nervous system was just like, I don't want to get up yet. But similarly to the, thanks for bringing up the point about meditation and trauma, because there was a time when I was bicommuting and I came within an inch of my life, and in the wake of this, I couldn't sit, just sort of shaking like a leaf to sit there, but I was like, but it should be fine. So but it wasn't. So, gentle yoga with a bunch of people was great. So it's like, there's no reason to be a Zazen fundamentalist if it's not benefiting you. So thanks for bringing up that point.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your experience with that, John. Because it's there's a way that we can feel pressure to power through, and really that's maybe not the wisest thing always. Well, look, I see that it's 8:15. I'm looking at all of you just to see if there's any last thought that would like to come forward.
I liked the phrase when starting out to sit at Brightway, the phrase on the card, proper sitting requires your full attention. So for me, that's a physical and mental challenge. And so it helped me to sit in a group. This is pre-COVID. The kind of the influence of the other people in the room sitting was, you know, a good kind of group influence, but I kept thinking of that phrase, proper sitting requires your full attention. And I knew I needed that invitational challenge.
Thanks, Ruth Ann. Thanks for bringing that up. That's great. Well, I think we will close. My final quote that I wanted to end with was what we recite. Part of comes from the Fukan Zazengi that we recited tonight. The Zazen I speak of is not meditation practice. It is simply the Dharma gate of joyful ease. So I wish all of you joy and ease on your path in Zazen. So with that, please make a show, and I'll say the closing verse. Abiding in this ephemeral world like a lotus in muddy water, the mind is pure and goes beyond. Thus we bow to Buddha. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, maha prajna pramita. Thank you all so much for being here, and feel free to unmute yourself.